Every one of the actors in our movie were dream casting opportunities, every single one. We got, I mean, when you have the three main leads, it's incredible, Margot and Charlize and Nicole. But we also had Kate McKinnon and Allison Janney and Connie Britton and Mark Duplass and Rob Delaney, and the list, Malcolm McDowell shows up, at the end. I mean, it's just out of control, the cast we had. One of the most important things about making this movie was we realized these were not just actors, they were storytellers with us. They would have to be storytellers with us because they're playing characters that are going to be so controversial, so scrutinized. They have to be above reproach. I like to cast the very, very best people for every part because it's one way to say, I'm not kidding around. I'm not trying to caricaturize anybody. I'm trying to find actors who will bring the most depth and nuance and humanity to every single role. Charlize is so passionate and so strong and so she's got all the craft she needs, but she doesn't think about craft. She's just thinking about truth. She just comes at it but it's passionate. And she also admitted in one of the Q&As that with Megyn Kelly, although she disagreed with a lot of things she says, she started realizing I have a lot in common with her. I'm ambitious. I'm strong. I'm accused sometimes of having sharp elbows and being too combative. But she said, what I love about playing these characters, that I want to highlight the fact that if that was a man, no one would say, this is a problem person. They would say, oh, look at that dude, he's impressive. That's what drew her to the character, because she saw that she had in common that kind of prejudice. She faced that kind of prejudice much the same way she imagined that Megyn Kelly would. She just had an intuition about how to play her. She also had such a devotion to getting the audience to connect with who she really was, that the look match was important to her, the accent match was important to her. She was willing to give up many, many, many hours of sleep to get there hours before we were scheduled to shoot every day and put on all that, the prosthetics. I mean, she was willing to put herself through a pretty amazing ordeal to transform. I was worried about that. I said to her, look, Charlize, you don't really need to do anything. You can evoke her just with pure performance, because there's enough of a physical match. People aren't really going to be thinking about the differences. And she said, I need to see myself in the mirror and not recognize myself, so that when I have this voice coming out of this a face, it's not my face. It's Megyn Kelly's face. When I started talking to Nicole about this, she recognized a flaw in the script, which was based on the fact that we really couldn't learn much about Gretchen Carlson's story because she wasn't allowed to talk about it. And her thing, she's, look, I don't need more screen time, but I think you're going to be worrying after you see your movie that you don't have enough to help us connect with Gretchen Carlson. And she just had very specific suggestions about connecting to Gretchen as a mother, for example. There should be some scenes where we see that she's a mom and that she has a family to support and that she cares about that. And so we wrote some scenes. And she also suggested that we should probably connect with how hard it was to be alone and wondering what Megyn Kelly. So we shot a scene late in the process that she was so right about. She just had great story instincts, right? She just knew what the story needed to help that character land in the movie. Margot's approach is a little different to the other two leads. She's very analytical. So, I was surprised how many questions she had. Our first meeting, she sat down. She had color-coded every scene, had very carefully, handwritten notes on every line. What's this mean? Why am I doing this? And they were excellent questions. I brought Charles in. We were like, this is so helpful. It made us try to understand. We made some changes based on her really good questions, but it was a kind of preparation that was so nerdy that I just didn't I don't know. I just didn't expect that from her. I don't, it's the kinds of characters she plays. She doesn't come across as a nerd, full-on script nerd, a character analysis nerd, and methodical about it in prep. When she gets on the set, she's got so much preparation and so many of her questions answered and so many she told me last night she had a whole future for Kayla in mind that she had mapped out about her sexuality, her career, into her 60s. I mean, that's nerdy. That's just nerdy. And I admired it so much. Portraying Roger Ailes, it would be easy to portray him as a loud, predatory, obnoxious, raging narcissist, which I think a lot of people thought of him. I think even those people would say, well, he was also good at media and he consulted on a lot of political campaigns and he was good at news. But what I had found in my research is that people loved Roger Ailes, not just right-wing people, left-wing people. Some left-wing people told me stories about him helping them on certain things in a very generous way, and how funny he could be, how charming and disarming he could be. And I just knew I needed someone who had that as an essence. We can show the rougher stuff, but to have lovability almost as an essential thing, a default thing almost. And John just has that in spades, and he can, though, go to a dark place. I'd seen him in multiple movies going dark. One of the things I do think I hope happens is that men talk about this more, that somehow it encourages men to stand up for women. I think women have begun to encourage each other to stand up for each other. It hasn't gotten all that much better, and we can't pretend like this movie is part of a reflection of some solution that closes the door on future, improvement. For women who don't have a lot of power, and a few of these women, Margot's character didn't have that much power, but Gretchen and Megan's characters, they have money, they have got good lawyers, they got, given how horrible their experiences were, they got some sense of justice by the end. Most women get nothing like that. If they come forward, they can lose their jobs, they can be blacklisted, that happens to this day, much more often than the kind of success, if you will, of bringing a guy down that we portray.